In December 1961, India annexed the Portuguese Indian territories of Goa, Daman and Diu after a short war with Portugal. The ratio of forces was more than 1 to 10 in favor of the Indians, and after 2 days of conflict, the Portuguese decided to surrender to avoid unnecessary losses. After 451 years of rule, Portugal finally lost its Indian colonies, who were incorporated into the Republic of India. The Portuguese state of India was founded in 1505 as a viceroyalty of the Kingdom of Portugal, 6 years after the discovery of a sea route between Portugal and India by Vasco da Gama. Afonso de Albuquerque captured the city of Goa in 1510, becoming the second European to conquer land in India since Alexander the Great. After 1510, the capital of the Portuguese viceroyalty was moved to Goa. Until the 18th century, the Portuguese governor of Goa had authority over the Portuguese possessions in the Indian Ocean from South Africa to Southeast Asia. In 1752, Portuguese Mozambique had its own separate government, and in 1844, the Portuguese government of India ceased to administer the territory of Macau, Solor, and Portuguese Timor, and its authority was limited to the colonial possessions of the Malabar coast of India. After India's independence from the British Empire in August 1947, Portugal continued to hold a handful of exclaves on the Indian subcontinent. The districts of Goa, Daman and Diu, and Dadra and Nagar Haveli, collectively known as the Estado da Índia. Goa, Daman and Diu covered an area of around 4,000 square kilometers and held a population of 640,000. On the 27th of February 1950, the government of India asked the Portuguese government to open negotiations about the future of Portuguese colonies in India. Portugal asserted that its territory on the Indian subcontinent was not a colony but part of metropolitan Portugal, and hence its transfer was non-negotiable, and that India had no rights to this territory because the Republic of India did not exist at the time when Goa came under Portuguese rule. When the Portuguese government refused to respond to subsequent memorandums in this regard, the Indian government on the 11th of June 1953 withdrew its diplomatic mission from Lisbon. By 1954, the Republic of India instituted visa restrictions on travel from Goa to India, which paralyzed transport between Goa and other exclaves like Daman, Diu, Dadra and Nagar Haveli. Between the 22nd of July and the 2nd of August 1954, armed activists attacked and forced the surrender of Portuguese forces stationed in Dadra and Nagar Haveli. From 1954, the Satyagrahis, or peaceful protesters against Portuguese rule, outside Goa and Daman's borders were violently suppressed through brute force. Many internal revolts were quelled by the use of force, and leaders extrajudicially murdered or jailed. As a result, India broke off diplomatic relations with Portugal, closed its consulate general in Panjim, and demanded that Salazar regime should close its delegation in New Delhi. India also imposed an economic embargo against the territories of Portuguese Goa. The Indian government adopted a diplomatic wait-and-watch approach from 1955 to 1961 and made attempts to highlight the issue of decolonization before the international community. On the 24th of November 1961, Sabarmati, a passenger boat passing between the Indian port of Kochi and the Portuguese-held island of Angidiv, was fired upon by Portuguese ground troops, resulting in the death of a passenger and injuries to the chief engineer. The action was precipitated by Portuguese fears that the boat carried a military landing party intent on storming the island. The incidents lent themselves to fostering widespread public support in India for military action in Goa. Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru stated to the press, "Continuance of Goa under Portuguese rule is an impossibility." The Indians prepared 45,000 soldiers and planned to launch simultaneous operations against Goa, Daman and Diu. Goa was defended by only 3,500 soldiers, but Salazar sent a message to Governor-General Manuel António Vassalo e Silva in which he ordered the Portuguese forces in Goa to fight to the last man. Salazar asked Vassalo e Silva to hold out for at least 8 days, within which time he hoped to gather international support against the Indian invasion. Vassalo e Silva disobeyed Salazar to avoid the unnecessary loss of human lives and surrendered the day after the Indian invasion. Hostilities in Goa began at 9:45 am on the 17th of December 1961 when a unit of Indian troops attacked and occupied the town of Molinguem in the northeast. Wanting to avoid escalation, the Portuguese High Command denied engagement and clearance for counteraction, restricting options for their ground troops. The main offensive, synchronized with the operations in Daman and Diu, started at 4 am in the next day. There were minor engagements between the Portuguese army and the Indians, as the Portuguese kept withdrawing and after crossing the Mandovi River blew up the bridges. At 8 pm, the Portuguese in Panaji asked for a ceasefire. In the next morning, 19th of December at 7:30 am, the Indians crossed the river and secured the town without facing any resistance. In the south, the progress of the Indians was slower, and by midday they entered Margao and after a fierce encounter, captured Verna at 3:30 pm. From there, the Indians proceeded to Mormugao and Dabolim airport, where the main body of the Portuguese army awaited them. Meanwhile, Diu was attacked and the Portuguese commanders agreed in a meeting that in view of repeated military advances of the Indians, with naval and airstrikes, along with the inability to establish contact with headquarters in Goa or Lisbon, there was no way to pursue an effective defense and decided to surrender to the Indian military. In Daman, the Portuguese tried to resist, but after running out of ammunition, they began to withdraw to an airfield in Damo Pequeno, where they surrendered the next day. Two naval battles took place during these operations. During the Battle of Mormugao, the Portuguese Navy advisory Afonso de Albuquerque was sunk by 3 Indian Navy frigates, and the Portuguese vessel Vega, armed with a single 20mm piece, was attacked by the Indian Air Force near Diu and sunk. The Portuguese in Goa retreated at the entrance to the port town of Vasco da Gama, where they had planned their last stand. Orders from Lisbon were to resist to the last man, holding out against the Indians until Portuguese naval reinforcements could arrive. Despite his orders from Lisbon, Governor-General Manuel António Vassalo e Silva surrendered at 8:30 pm on the 19th of December. The war had lasted 2 days and had cost 22 Indian and 30 Portuguese lives. When they received news of the fall of Goa, the Portuguese government formally severed all diplomatic links with India and refused to recognize the incorporation of the seized territories into the Indian Republic. The Portuguese prisoners were released in the spring of 1962, but they were considered deserters and traitors by the Salazar regime. Following the end of Portuguese rule in 1961, Goa was placed under military administration, which was replaced on the 8th of June 1962 by a civilian government. Portugal remained hostile to India until the Carnation Revolution in 1974, and on the 31st of December 1974, finally a treaty was signed between India and Portugal, with the Portuguese recognizing full sovereignty of India over Goa, Daman, Diu, Dadra and Nagar Haveli.